right, you ready?
Thank you, Joseph. That's beautiful.
No. That's Will's seat. Where's the wedding ring?
Alice, you were his wife. Why aren't you wearing it? I'm not sure.
Did you sell it?
No, of course not.
And get a good price.
I really think we should do this another time.
No, now's the best time.
Will's looking down on us from above.
From above. He's down below.
Welcome back to the latest Weekend Warrior video review. I just got back from seeing Evil Dead Burn, the new horror movie from Warner Brothers and New Line. And of course, it's the next installment of the franchise started by Sam Raimi way back in the early 80s. This one is directed by Sebastian Vanacek, and I actually got to see it at a special Fangoria fan event screening. So I was in a theater full of rabid, rowdy horror fans who I'll talk about them a little bit later. But I'm going to try to keep this pretty spoiler-free, which I have to say is pretty tough because some of the cool stuff you want to hear about would probably be a spoiler because it involves people dying and coming back. This is Evil Dead, so they come back as Deadites. Deadites are a big part of the movie, as usual, but it's a very different movie than the last one, Evil Dead Rise, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I actually liked Lee Cronin's The Mummy better than Lee Cronin's Evil Dead Rise. And there's reasons for that. I'll talk about that a little bit in this. Again, I won't get into spoilers, but I will talk about why this one actually works better in some ways. Sebastian Vanacek is a really interesting filmmaker. He did a movie called Infested, which was on Shudder, which I still haven't seen. It's basically a spider movie. This is a very different movie, but kudos to Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert that they found another great director, like they found Fede Alvarez, like they found Lee Cronin. They keep finding great directors to direct these Evil Dead movies, and it really shows when you have really good filmmakers and really good horror filmmakers tackling this franchise and this property. And it's more than that. This has a huge fan base going back so far. I don't know if it ever got like the younger fans that it probably wanted to get with the Fede Alvarez movie or the Evil Dead Rise. I don't really know who is aware of Evil Dead at this point. Anyway, Evil Dead Burn, let's talk about it. It actually starts out with a kind of a prologue, which is a man talking about the Book of the Dead and Necronomicon. And he's also talking about how there's a weapon that can kill what we call the Deadites. And he says that there's this weapon, they will try to get it once they were aware that it exists and it's around. And sure enough, that's what the main plot of the movie is, these Deadites trying to get their hands on this weapon. I don't think I'm going to say what it is right now. Maybe I won't say it all. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to try to keep it spoiler-free. But anyway, there's this prologue where basically is this man what we learn later is an attic who is talking about the Book of the Dead and this weapon that can kill them. And then we get another kind of prologue, which is kind of on a lake. And it has two guys fishing. And again, not going to say too much, but let's just say that they die. Okay. They got to get killed in pretty gory ways. And that's just the start. Doesn't even, the opening kills are just not even as gory as the movie's going to get. And it's going to get really gory and bloody. I don't want to use hyperbole, but it might be the goriest movie I've ever seen. And that includes the Terrifier movies, which I think are, I don't know. I liked some of them. Didn't like the last one. So anyway, let's talk about these characters. So basically, we see this these kills on the lake. This Deadite, a female Deadite comes out of the lake, and she gets hit by a car. The guy driving the car is a guy named Will. And we'll find that out later when he's fighting with his girlfriend, Alice, played by Suhelia Yacoub. Don't really know her that well, but I guess she might be a French actress. She speaks a lot of French in the movie. She's out with her I guess we find out later, her husband, Will, his brother, Joseph, played by Hunter Doohan, and his girlfriend, Thaya, played by Lucianne Buchanan, who you can see behind me. She's drinking wax. So that's in the trailer, but obviously she's going to be a Deadite eventually. Okay, I guess that's a spoiler. I don't know, but it's in the trailer. She's in the trailer, all of the trailer. That's Lucianne Buchanan. So anyway, there's these two couples, two brothers, and their wife and girlfriend, I guess, are out and for one of their birthday, for Joseph's birthday, and the married couple, Will and Alice, get a huge fight, and he's drunk and he drives off and he hits the Deadite from the beginning. So this is where it gets connected. So basically, the woman Deadite who comes out of the lake gets hit by a car by Will. and then she sets his whole car on fire. Evil Dead Burn. That's probably the whole thing. There's a fire burn. Oddly, he's dead, and we cut to later where he's being cremated. I'm thinking, wait, is there stuff left over from that fire in the car to cremate him? It seems a little kind of redundant to kind of cremate a guy who's in this huge fire. But anyway, that's what's going on. His whole family's gotten together, including Will and Joseph's mother, Susan, played by Tandy Wright, who does not like Alice whatsoever. She is not a fan. Their father, Edgar, played by Errol Shand, also not a fan. And so it's a pretty awkward funeral ceremony before his cremation. There's also his grandmother, Polly, played by Maud Davey, who is suffering from dementia. She is not all there. We'll definitely talk more about her later. But anyway, so basically, okay, Will is dead. He's been cremated, and then Evil Dead stuff happens. Okay, that's it. The end. Boom. No, I mean it's kind of funny because you can't really talk about this movie without getting to spoilers. But also, it's an Evil Dead movie, so you kind of expect that like people are gonna die, people are gonna come back. There's Deadites. They're gonna kill other people. They're gonna convert other people. It's very violent, very gory. I'd say at some points you might even go too far. And I say this as someone who's actually liked at least one of the Terrifier movies, number two. But this is insanely gory. This is like, it's really funny. I was thinking when I was watching this, I was like, there was some news when Obsession came out that it had trouble getting an R rating for a certain scene. And I see Evil Dead Burn, and I'm like, boy, that Obsession is pretty tame compared to a lot of Evil Dead Burn. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I don't want to say what happens. Something involving a dog. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to go absolutely nuts over the amount of gore and blood and violence. Some people are going to be really freaked out. People are going to think, okay, this is going too far. It probably does go too far. I mean, that's kind of the fun of this because, like, Sam Raimi, when he made The Evil Dead back, I guess it was in 1981, I mean, he took things pretty extreme for 1981. I mean, he really took things up. And then he did a couple other movies, and then he kind of like unleashed the reins to other filmmakers. And it's interesting because I feel like Evil Dead Rise, Sam Raimi had an executive producer credit. On Evil Dead Burn, he has a producer credit. That might be why Sebastian Vanacek is able to really, really go far with the gore and the violence and the blood. But it's really, I mean, I think what really works for this movie is the casting, because I hadn't heard of any of these actors whatsoever. And at first, when you meet them, you're kind of like, okay, they're just typical horror characters, whatever. But the stuff they get into, as far as, I mean, there's a lot of it involves stunt people, of course, as well. And there's a lot of it like involving the makeup effects, which is very important. But I mean, these actors really put themselves through a lot. I mean, I really like Lee Conan's The One. I mean, I remember giving that a good review. I really enjoyed it. Lee Conan's actually an executive producer on this, so maybe he, started the ball rolling on this one. Started the ball rolling on this one. But Sebastian Vanacek took the reins, and he just kind of just had this great cast, and really amazing. I mean, it's just like Obsession. Obsession. You didn't know any of those actors before Obsession. You're talking about them all after seeing it. I think the same is going to happen to the Evil Dead Burn because there's a lot of characters in this and a lot of actors who are just really putting themselves through so much stuff. And I will pay special attention to Maud Davey as a grandmother, Polly, because she kind of steals the movie. It is not great to be laughing at a woman who's suffering from dementia and some of the stuff they say, but I mean, she does bring the humor to the movie, and so it's not a completely dark. I mean, it's dark because it's Evil Dead, but it's like not. It has some humor. It's like it has some lighter moments, and it's very naturally lighter moments. I have to say that Sebastian Vanacek, he's a really, really talented filmmaker. There's a lot of stuff he does in this, as far as the editing and the cinematography and just what he does is setting up these set pieces of like these deadite attacks, which is really, really impressive. I was just like, I was watching this movie and I was like, okay, that's really impressive. And I don't like, his cinematographer is Philip Lozano. I haven't checked his credits to see if he's done a lot. I know his editor, Maxime Caro, has done a lot of horror in the past. Together, they really, Philip Lozano is a Luc Besson, comes from the Luc Besson crew. So he definitely knows the action parts of it, which makes sense because there's a lot of action in this. Very violent action, but there's action. But yeah, I think you get this, you put together this cast, and it's interesting because it's not a cabin in the woods as is normally. Now it's just kind of an old family home which is falling apart. But as the family comes together for this funeral and they come together afterwards, Deadites attack. They attack violently. People get stabbed and all sorts of stuff. I'm not gonna ruin any of the kills. They're great kills. This is a movie with a lot of great kills. There's a lot of great. I mean, okay, again, don't want to spoil it, but I'll just say there's a weed whacker. There's a chainsaw as a kind of like a little hint of a chainsaw, but it's really the weed whacker which causes the most blood in the third act. And that third act is, I mean, it is just pouring blood. It's again, like I said, this is probably the goriest movie. I mean, maybe The Substance a few years ago could be up there. This is going to be interesting because I mean, it already got an R rating, so congratulations to them. I mean, they didn't have any problems with that, but this is, I mean, I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised it got an R rating because this stuff goes really, sometimes it even goes overboard. I'd say maybe a little too far, but it's a really satisfying installment of Evil Dead. I will probably see it again. I was gonna give it an 8 out of 10, but I'm kind of like a little less because I feel like the ending, like the last 15, 20 minutes was not that great. Again, because it was going too far. You know, it was again, don't want to spoil it, but it just goes a little too far and gets into stuff which didn't really need to get into. Could have ended a little bit earlier and been fine. But I mean, it was satisfying enough. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's the same thing I gave to Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I think Evil Dead Rise. I think I gave that like a 5.5. I didn't actually review it. I just saw it, you know, with the normal people. Yeah, Evil Dead Burn, a great installment. Very violent, very gory. I'll be really excited to see this with another crowd. I mean, it was great seeing with the Fangoria crowd. So yeah, Evil Dead Burn opens July 10th, and I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. But I could theoretically push up to 8 out of 10 now that I've seen it and kind of know what's happening. But I was really impressed with it. Really impressed with the cast. Really impressed with the direction. And yeah, Sam Raimi's kind of on a roll these days with these movies, and hope this does well.
William, my sweet boy. I would give anything for us to be together again.
My grandfather believed the devil would return if anyone read from the Book of the Dead.
Kunda. The whole family can be reunited. Cheers to your perfect family.